Welcome to Room B. In this room, we're going to be focusing on Act 2's summary and other important parts of Act 2. Remember, have your Act 2 discussion notes guide open so you can answer the questions asked in this breakout room and in the recording. Remember, you can pause at any time if you have any questions or if you need to review anything. We're going to start with some summaries. For good practice, read along with me, either in your head or out loud. After Mercutio's Queen Mab's speech, he, Romeo, and the others head for the Capulet ball. There, Romeo is recognized by Tybalt, who wishes to fight. However, Lord Capulet, Juliet's father, rebukes Tybalt. Capulet does not want anything to ruin his party, and he says that Romeo's reputation is that of an upstanding young man. Moments later, Romeo and Juliet meet for the first time. They fall in love instantly. Though they do not know one another's identities, only after the meeting does Juliet learn that Romeo is a Montague. Romeo returns to Juliet's balcony, and the two declare their love for one another in one of the most famous scenes in drama history. Afterwards, Romeo tells Friar Lawrence of his great love for Juliet, and the nurse seeks out Romeo to set up a meeting between him and Juliet. The nurse is a bawdy comic character. Friar Lawrence is someone Romeo trusts and someone who hopes that a marriage between Romeo and Juliet might end the Montague-Capulet feud. Romeo and Juliet meet again at Friar Lawrence's cell, where they are secretly married. Let's go to the next slide. So let's start thinking about Act 2 and what happens in Act 2. It's only after Romeo and Juliet's first kiss that they realize the other one's identity. So Romeo understands that his relationship with Juliet can never be as good as it was at first, because now he knows who she is and all the problems that their love will cause. One excerpt from Juliet says, "My only love sprung from my only hate, too early seen unknown and known too late. Prodigious birth of love it is to me that I must love a loathed enemy." Basically, what Juliet is coming to realize is that this is a negative consequence of her love, that their love is doomed, that her reaction to Romeo's is very similar. They both realize that even though they're in love, their families do not get along. So at the end of the day, their love is doomed. So let's kind of make sure we know what's going on. Let's put these events in order. You're going to do this on your Act 2 discussion notes guide. Take a minute and complete this activity. Pause this recording. Okay, by now you should have paused the recording and completed your events in order on your Act 2 discussion notes guide. I'm going to go to the next slide. Let's talk about Romeo and Friar Lawrence's conversation. So Friar Lawrence is concerned about Romeo's quick switch from love with Rosaline to Juliet. Remember, in Act 1, Romeo is in love with Rosaline, a girl who does not love him back. He didn't really even have time to let his tears dry over Rosaline before he fell in love with Juliet. Romeo argued back and said that Rosaline didn't love him back, so it was easy to get over her. Friar agrees, but he hopes their love will end the ancient grudge between Montagues and Capulets. The nurse is also helping Romeo and Juliet. Here she says, "Pray you, sir, a word? And as I told you, my young lady bid me inquire you out. What she bid me say, I will keep to myself. But first, let me tell ye, if ye should lead her to a fool's paradise, as they say, if were a very gross kind of behavior, as they say, for the gentlewoman is young, therefore, if you should deal double with her, truly it were an ill thing to be offered to any gentlewoman, and very weak dealing." Remember, when we're reading Shakespeare, this language can get a lot kind of confusing. So let's paraphrase or translate it in our own words. The nurse is bubbling with excitement. Once alone, she gives Romeo the marriage request from Juliet, and she is also warning Romeo that she has Juliet's back, and that this better be legit love, not just lust. Romeo tells the nurse to tell Juliet to go to Friar Lawrence's so that they can marry, and he says he will send ropes that will allow him to get up to Juliet's balcony that night. Okay, so now the nurse is helping Romeo and Juliet to plan their marriage. So there is a team effort. The nurse, close trusted friend to Juliet, she's pretty funny. She agrees to take the messages back and forth. Friar Lawrence is very trusted advisor to Romeo. He's kind of more serious than the nurse. He agrees to marry Romeo and Juliet, and he believes that this marriage will end the feud between the Montagues and Capulet. So let's reflect about the nurse and Friar Lawrence. On your Act 2 discussion notes guide, answer this question. Based on what we know about the end of the story, are Friar Lawrence and the nurse really being helpful? Pause this recording to answer. Okay, by now you should have answered number 2 in Room B, Act 2 Summary, on your Act 2 discussion notes guide. Go and go to the next slide. So now, Juliet is on her way to get married to Romeo. Friar says, come with me, and we will make short work. For by your leaves, you shall not stay alone till Holy Church. Incorporate 2 in 1. So we will have to see what happens next. Okay, so let's go back and review our answers. For the events in order, the correct order is 1. Romeo first sees Juliet. 2. Tybalt recognizes Romeo and wishes to fight him. 3. Romeo and Juliet speak to one another. 4. Romeo and Juliet learn each other's names. And 5. Mercutio and Benvolio tease Romeo for being lovesick. Okay. So we know with this question, we have to think, is Friar Lawrence and the nurse being helpful? So we know the play ends in a tragedy, and we know that Romeo and Juliet are both going to die. So in knowing this, we can view the actions of the nurse and the friar as not helpful. Both characters propel the story forward with their action. The nurse organizes the marriage and the friar performs it. But this is only bound to cause problems, and we know this because Romeo and Juliet die in the end. Okay, that concludes Room B, Act 2 Summary. Please rewind this recording or message your teacher if you have any questions.